should be the game of the week in the SEC. Tennessee undefeated. Oh, baby, you love when I say undefeated, so I'm going to keep saying it. Them undefeated Vols on the road at LSU. And Shannon, rewatched Auburn LSU this morning. Man, what a game that was. But I'm hearing a lot from Tennessee fans, Shane. Well, my God, they let this Auburn quarterback throw all over them. They nearly lost to a terrible West team. But it's difficult to win on the road in the SEC, particularly at night. I'm not, trying to excuse that, but they did get the win. They were down 17-0. They came back, stormed back, scored 21 consecutive. But I think that's a credit, Shane, to Brian Kelly and his coaching staff. Jaden Daniels, he may be the most. I'm not saying he's the best player. I'm not saying he's like a Heisman guy or anything, but he may be the most valuable player right now in the SEC to his team, because I don't know where LSU would be without him. But as Brian Kelly, we'll get to his comments here in a second, says, we can't have 5 passing yards. That's not going to cut it against the teams that we got on his schedule. And he's looking right at Tennessee. They have got to be able to manufacture some offense. So I guess my question to you, Shane, is how dangerous do you consider this LSU team, which is not even playing that well? They're playing really well in second halves. They've not even put together a full, complete game, Shane, yet they're sitting here undefeated in the SEC, 4-1. And if they play like they do in the fourth quarter for an entire game, hell, they could probably beat anybody on their schedule.
Yeah. No, I mean, what rank is LSU now?
I think they're like 23, 24, something like that.
I mean, how do you 25 actually. Top 25 though, Mike. You know, how do you overlook the LSU Tigers right now? I think the best thing that could have happened for Tennessee is the LSU to win these games, because LSU's been, they've been good every game. I mean, not great, not fun to watch, but they find ways to get the victory. In fact, they really found a way, even in Florida State week 1. They should have won that game, with stupid mistakes. But they're cleaning those up along the way, and I think that is very good for programs, because LSU was a sneaky trap game for a lot of programs, Tennessee included. It's a noon game. We're going to go down there. We're saying the same old thing. I only threw 5 yards. What? I mean, they're not going to be able. We did the same thing with Florida. We did the same thing with Pitt. Yep. We make them little smaller than they are, but then next thing you know, we're in the throes of things. Right. And so I think after a couple of those, you can't overlook anybody, especially in the SEC West in particular. So this is a monumental game, and it's that rat poison, and it, I'm not in the locker room. I'm not hanging out with the guys and shitting on LSU right now. But if that's what's going on up there, then be careful, buddy. There's a reason that Vegas does not have this a 3-score, outlook. Right. That should be your telltale sign that this is going to be a hell of a matchup.
Right, and LSU, they got that ground game going. Florida had success on Tennessee. LSU's got a hell of a lot better receivers than than Florida right now. We just saw what Florida did to Tennessee.
And the defensive linemen, Mike. There's a real shot they live in the backfield of Tennessee. So, we don't have time for those routes to get open. So that's another thing to worry about.
Right. And now LSU, maybe you're not quite suited to take advantage of Tennessee's secondary because of the lack of a downfield passing game. But Jaden Daniels, Shane, very similar to Hendon Hooker, he's not turning the ball over, no interceptions this entire season. Now, maybe he's being a little too careful with the football. You'd certainly rather your quarterback be careful than aggressive and turning the ball over. But this is a game where, again, it may turn into a shootout, and they're going to have to put up some points. I really do think, because you're not going to hold Tennessee under 20 points. It seems very unrealistic. You know what?
Yeah, but that's the game plan, Mike. It's ground and pound, run the clock, try to hold the possession as long as possible, make Tennessee, force them to 3 and outs. That's the script for beating Tennessee. But it's easier said than done, because if Tennessee does have 2 or 3 great possessions like they've had all year long, and you're down 3 scores, this isn't a program that can just bounce back and rally and tie it up. So that's if I'm LSU, my biggest fear is getting behind. But if they can stay ahead of the chains and keep possession of the ball, then that's the formula for beating the Volunteers.
I don't think many people before the season would have believed through 5 games Kayshawn would have no touchdowns and fewer than 100 yards receiving. Why has he struggled to get going?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's – look, I mean, part of this is building trust with a new quarterback. Obviously we're trying to get him the football. He's getting a lot of double coverage. We're still winning. He's happy that we're winning. Look, all those guys that make decisions about who the best receivers are in the country are still going to look at Kayshawn and go, that's a really, really good wide receiver. Numbers are numbers. At the end of the day, he's going to continue to play this game at the next level, and the numbers won't dictate where he gets drafted. It's his ability to continue to play the game at the highest of levels. And when you turn on the film and he's running full speed and he's beating guys and the ball didn't come to him for some whatever reason, that's out of his control. So what Kayshawn continues to do better each and every week is he controls what he can control. And he does that in practice now, and he does that in games. He was happy we won the football game. Would he like the ball more? Absolutely. Would I like to get it to him more? Absolutely. But he's handled himself. He's handled himself in the right way, and he continues to work for the team.
Ryan, sort of building off the passing game, I guess, discussion, there hasn't been much of a downfield vertical threat, I guess, this year. Is there a solution that you have in mind for that, or are you going to kind of have to live with like the quick passing game and just trying to make that more effective than it was against Auburn?
We've had, I mean, if I could give you a video clip of all the throws downfield. We've had a number of deep ball throws. They weren't this week. Last week against New Mexico, that was a cover 8. That was short passing game, catch it, run after the catch, threw for over 300 yards. This past weekend was not good enough. That's not going to get you a sustainable offense that can win games at the highest level in the SEC. But that's coaching and that's playing. And what I mean by coaching and playing is we have to prepare better. Our fundamentals have to be better. We have to look at the passing game. Are we doing too much? Are we doing the things that highlight our players? And then in turn, our players have to look at themselves and are they preparing the right way? And is there attention to the details necessary? So this is an all of us together that we need to get better. And the recognition and the awareness that 85 yards is not going to get it done. But it's a new week. And the one thing that doesn't carry over very well in college football is the last week. So we expect to be much better.
How is Daniels physically? And 2, after 5 games, are you where you thought you would kind of be as a team?
Daniels is fine. He had a bursa sack, which is, I don't know the exact, medical deal with that. I wish I could be a little bit more precise and articulate, but it's much more, it's not structural at all, but it's painful. And so he was in pain. And so, he just felt like he was hurting the team being out there. But he felt good yesterday. The exam was clean. We did an MRI just to make sure, and that came back clean. So he's now in a pretty good position where he feels like he's 100%. I never really looked at it relative to the wins and losses piece. What I've looked at is, will we continue to get better each and every week as we go through the season, and can we develop an identity as a football team? And I think that early on we've been able to identify that this football team will fight. It's got grit, and those are traits that sometimes don't ever show themselves during the season. So yeah, I think we're ahead of it because to go on the road and be down 17-0 and come back and win, that means that your program is establishing character within the ranks, and that to me, puts you on the right path.
Now, on the Tennessee side, Shane, let me ask you this. Obviously, just beat the Florida Gators. That's not something Tennessee is very used to. It's a different story. Josh Heupel and Hendon Hooker in this program, but maybe it's more the fans than anything. But you get that 2 weeks to kind of savor it. Now you're locked into this LSU game. Do you think there'll be any kind of hangover to, I don't want to call it they just won the Super Bowl, but they won like a monumental victory. They got the Smoky Grays are breaking them out. So, I mean, this is a big deal to Tennessee, too. But any worry that, hey, we're top 10, there's a target on our back? When's the last time you could say there's been a target on Tennessee's back, Any worry that, maybe they're not ready to handle all this success?
No, not really, Mike. And I think I would have been a little – I could have bought into that narrative last week, but the fact we had a bye week.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are talking about the Tennessee-Florida game anymore. I'm sure there's a few of us, I mean, we like our digs, That's what the Volunteers. We're all assholes online, But I think right now, them rolling out the Smoky Grays and stuff, that tells me that they're orchestrating – ammunition, get the kids fired up about something, So that's usually when you see these changes of the jerseys, it's not for the fans, it's for that locker room. So no, they're going to be fired up. They're going to be ready to wear that gray and go out and get a victory. But yeah, they're not so much the hangover. I just think the bye week was big for Tennessee.
And
not to mention injuries, Mike. I mean, this
right.
was a banged up Tennessee Volunteer team, and Brian talked about earlier in the week. There's a difference between hurt and what did he say? Hurt and injured. Yeah. So I think there was a lot of hurt Volunteers playing the last couple of weeks. So this gave them time to kind of work on those ailments.
Yeah, I know you're a fan of the movie The Program. Shane, sounds like Brian Kelly is too. I think that's a line from that one. But one other thing I wanted to ask you real quick, Shane. Hendon Hooker, is there another quarterback in the country that you want on the road? This is probably going to be a very tight ball game, but you're always going to have the advantage with that guy in the backfield, short of maybe even – you'd rather want him than Bryce Young right now because Bryce is a little banged up. So, maybe that's not fair to include him in that. But, I mean, Tennessee's got that ace in their pocket. Do you got to feel uber confident with Hendon Hooker there?
Yeah, and that's a loaded question, Mike. Can get me in trouble here. So let me dance around this here for a second. For starters, the SEC, I'm extremely biased. I do not watch other conferences unless they're playing one of our SEC teams. So I hear the Stroud guys. I know we've got a couple of OU followers. They're going to come up with their, forget it. I'm just talking exclusively SEC. Now, Bryce, I think right now is playing better than anybody in the country other than the injury, obviously. But if he were healthy, that would obviously be the quarterback you'd want under center. But other than that, Mike, there are some great quarterbacks. Nothing against Kentucky, nothing against, I can hear them now. They're typing, Mike. You got me in this little rap. No. But for what Tennessee does, the style of offense that they play, that's why I think that Hooker is the best option for Tennessee Volunteers. I would not choose if we were picking teams and I knew Heupel's offense and I knew I knew exactly how we were going to play out, and I had to pick a quarterback out of the 14 quarterbacks. If Bryce was healthy, I'd take him, but if not, I'm taking Hooker.
And I think it's been said to death, Shane, but I just want to get your thoughts on it, and I'll share mine, that getting this game early, massive advantage for Tennessee. I've been down to Baton Rouge for a night game. It was very similar situation to this. It was Hugh Freeze, undefeated, Ole Miss. It was an LSU team I think already had a loss on the season, but I believe they were ranked as well. But it is like a freaking music festival down there in Baton Rouge when they got one of these night games. I mean, it is a party for miles in every direction, and that really does help create a scene. And that I'm not saying that LSU is not on Tennessee's level, but if that is the case, that crowd could be the difference in making that up. How big of an advantage for your Vols do you think it is that you say noon? It's 11 a.m. local time that this game's kicking off. I mean, Tennessee caught the biggest break in the world with this one.
Without a doubt, Mike. It's energy, and people don't think it's real. Go to the freaking game. I've never been to Death Valley, but I have been to a lot of SEC stadiums at night. It's different. It's night and day. You ever watch some of these 12 o'clock games and, you got your offense. It's just kind of hits one of those lulls, one of those dry spells, and it's just you can hear everything. You can hear a pin drop on that field, and it's just the fans aren't as loud. They're just the players aren't as into it. Sometimes these games kind of drag along. Not all of them. We've had some really good 12 o'clock games, but you never get that at night at Death Valley. There is no I can hear everything in the stadium. Mm-hmm. It is a constant noise. The decibels are elevated just because of the night. It's energy, it's fuel. So if I were LSU, I'd be raising hell that this thing wasn't flexed to a nighttime game, because it's 2 top 25 teams, Mike. It should not be played. There should be, CBS has that clause where they could put two games in. I would have been raising hell that this should be included, because how many more times are we going to get to see LSU play at 7 o'clock or 3:30 on a CBS? So that's I would have been calling in some favors for this week, but we're here, and I think it's great for the Vols, and it sucks for LSU.
And I'll tell you, last thing on this, Shane, my dad and I, we were wearing Tennessee gear down there, and it was Ole Miss, like I said, LSU. There were some confused fans down there with they just thought that we were the world's two biggest idiots, We're
at the wrong stadium.
Josh, as you know, LSU's had a couple of comebacks, 13 points, 17 points on Saturday. When a team is able to do that, what does that do for a team, knowing obviously the dynamic in each room is a little bit different?
Well, just for us, you got to understand that if you're up on the scoreboard, it doesn't matter. We talk a lot about playing at 0-0 for 60 minutes. The way they play and compete, no matter what the scoreboard looks like, you have to be prepared for their best for 60 minutes. They are a resilient team. They've done a really good job of creating turnovers, making special teams plays, creating short fields, and flipping the way the game's played here. You can see that from week 1 all the way through this past week.
LSU defensively, what challenges do they present, starting with the front four and B.J. Ojulari, and then the back end with all those transfers?
Yeah, the front four, they're big, physical, long, athletic. They have the ability to apply pressure to the quarterback and break the pocket down. You want to stay out of long yardage situations against them. On the back end, they have a bunch of new bodies to their roster with a bunch of transfers. Those guys have played a lot of football. I think they continue to get more in sync and more comfortable in their scheme. And for us, we got to have balance in what we're doing. So, run game on early downs will be critical. Playing from ahead of the chains is going to be critical in this game.
Josh, with it being 11 a.m. local kickoff time, do you enjoy that? Are you glad that you'll kind of be able to get to business instead of sitting around all day?
Yeah, if you ask coaches everywhere, they say, give me the earliest kickoff possible. For us, it's going to be a great environment. I'm sure it'll be a packed house, and this is a tough place to play. But it's so much about us and our preparation, make sure that we handle things the right way. We got to take care of the football. You can't have penalties. You can't do things that hurt yourself in this football game. It's a really good team that we're playing.